I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. This video shows the moments after a passenger plane crashed in a residential area in Brazil's Sao Paulo state Friday. You can see wreckage of the ATR aircraft on fire next to homes. Brazil's president says all 61 people aboard were killed in the crash. Brazilian authorities say the plane lost altitude nearly 2 minutes before falling out of the sky. The cause of the crash is being investigated. No one was killed in the neighborhood where the plane crashed. Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz are on their campaign tour with a rally in Arizona Friday. It's the fourth battleground state the pair has visited this week. And Donald Trump returning to the campaign trail for a rally in Montana. The former president seeks to give a boost to the GOP Senate to oust the state's Democratic incumbent. And as the Paris Summer Olympics reaches a close, Spectrum turns the spotlight to Los Angeles as the city prepares to host the 2028 Games. Those who are against the Games say residents near the Coliseum have lost their homes after being pushed out by developers.
I don't think any city that isn't able to house its residents deserves to host something like the Olympics.
Those are your headlines. Here's your weather on the ones.
Meteorologist Ian Cassette. We are looking at basically two different seasons here this weekend. To the north, feeling like fall with beautiful weather, 70s in Milwaukee, 73 degrees in Bismarck, and feeling great all the way through the Central Plains. But in the south and into the west, it's more of the same 90s, dangerous heat expected throughout the weekend. Feels like temperatures that are going to be in the triple digits. More on this and those storm chances here this weekend coming up on Weather on the Ones in the next 10 minutes.
I heard a very loud noise very close to me. I thought it was a drone. I looked up to the sky and saw the plane spinning. I went to the balcony and I saw a gigantic black smoke rising.
Tragedy in Brazil. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. A passenger plane carrying 61 people crashed on the outskirts of Sao Paulo Friday. Brazil's president and the owner of the airliner says everyone on board has died. And shocking video shows the moments after the plane crashed into a neighborhood, bursting into flames with smoke filling the sky. You can see pieces of wreckage, including the cockpit, on fire in what looks like a yard. Officials say 57 passengers and 4 crew members were on the plane and ATR when it went down. Authorities say they have recovered the black box flight in determining what caused the accident.
So one of the things that's going to be of concern is, was there a mechanical malfunction or failure? The other thing, of course, is pilot. And were they operating the airplane in a prescribed manner? Did they have some sort of mechanical issue that they were dealing with?
Experts say investigators will look at the maintenance history of the aircraft to determine if there was any issues with the plane. The aircraft crashed into a residential area in western Brazil after departing from Cascavel, a municipality of the country. And according to records, the plane had 73 seats and requires a minimum of 2 crew members to operate. The airline's manufacturer released a statement saying it has been informed of the accident, adding, "Our thoughts are with individuals affected by this event." The statement reads, ATR specialists are fully engaged to support both the investigation . Now to another major story, Decision 2024. The Trump and Harris campaigns are on the move Friday. Vice President Kamala Harris and running mate Tim Walz rallying in Arizona, while Donald Trump will host a campaign event in Montana. Spectrum's Evan Kozlov kicks off our coverage in Washington with more on what's becoming one of the most expensive presidential races in U.S. history.
Border security ranks as a major issue in this year's election, and polls show that more Americans think that Republicans are better able to handle it than Democrats, a vulnerability that Vice President Kamala Harris is now trying to address as she runs for the White House.
What a bad job she did on the border.
It's a message that Donald Trump's campaign keeps stressing, blasting the border policies of President Joe Biden and now Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump's running mate, J.
It is unbelievable what we're letting happen at this southern border, and we're letting it happen because Kamala Harris refuses to do her job.
Now, as Harris campaigns in Arizona on Friday, she's moving to combat the criticism, launching a new ad that touts her record as California's Attorney General.
As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
The ad also promises new measures as president and highlights her support of sweeping new border restrictions that the Biden administration negotiated with Senate Republicans earlier this year.
The motion is not agreed to.
Before Republicans killed the bill in Congress at the direction of Trump. The number of migrants illegally crossing the southern border did surge to record levels under Biden, but crossings have now dropped to the lowest in more than 3 years after Biden imposed new restrictions in June on those seeking asylum.
First and foremost, inflation.
Vargas, a professor at Arizona State University, says most Arizona voters are still focused on their pocketbooks first and foremost, although immigration will also be a driving issue.
Both sort of Republicans and Democrats, both Latino Republicans and Latino Democrats, while they both may say immigration is a top issue, what to do about and how to do it is different.
Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump is headlining a rally Friday night in Montana for a Republican Senate candidate who's trying to unseat Democrat Jon Tester, a race that could determine which party controls the Senate. Reporting in Washington, the 7 Kozloff, Spectrum News.
Spectrum's Ruben Jones is here now with more of our Decision 2024 team coverage from Washington. Ruben, President Biden is expected to join Harris on her campaign tour for the first time since he dropped out of the 2024 election. What can you tell us about that, and why now?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting, Sharon, to see them. They'll be together, as you mentioned, in their first joint appearance since Biden dropped out of the race and threw his support behind Kamala Harris. Look, a lot of eyes are going to be on this because the questions going forward are how much does Harris want Biden to be involved in the campaign and vice versa? What role could Biden play? Will he travel around the country with Kamala Harris? Obviously, Joe Biden was struggling in the polls before he dropped out of the race. So how much does it help or hurt him or hurt her to have him actively involved in this campaign? So that'll be really interesting to follow as they make that joint appearance in Maryland, which, by the way, not a swing state, but very close, obviously, to the nation's capital.
All right, so Ruben, it's starting to look like we'll see at least one presidential debate, but Trump is pushing for more dates. What update do you have?
So we know that the confirmed date, Sharon, is going to be on September 10th, and that will be on ABC News, which was originally scheduled to happen with Biden when he was in the race and with this one on NBC. We're going to wait to see whether that happens, whether Kamala Harris agrees to those debates. But now we've got one set in stone, and so this will be so interesting to follow because of what happened, obviously, in that debate earlier this year, where Biden, frankly, had a very disastrous debate that some might say caused him to drop out of the race a few months later. Look, I think Democrats are probably more confident about Harris and how she will do in a debate, but they were feeling pretty good about Biden going into the debate. So she will probably be able to display some of her prosecutorial skills that she had as a prosecutor, and how that will play against Donald Trump. We'll have to wait and see, Sharon.
Yeah, a lot of eyes are going to be watching that debate for sure. Ruben Jones in Washington. Thanks. Friday marking 10 years since the fatal shooting of Michael Brown by police in Ferguson, Missouri. How his death has brought changes nationwide.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
At Spectrum, we know that internet is a vital tool to help you fulfill your dreams.
My dream is to become a video game developer.
My dream is to get my online college degree. At Spectrum, we are committed to delivering reliable, affordable internet and unlimited mobile to keep you connected to what matters most to you.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, That was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette looking at our weather headlines going on into this weekend. The remnants of Debbie on its way out. It's been a long time coming. The system worked its way from Florida up to the northeast, bringing heavy rain and severe weather. It exits New England overnight into the Midwest and the Central Plains. Much cooler weather here throughout this weekend. Temperatures below average, but different story in the south and in the west, with feels like temperatures that are going to be in the triple digits. Debbie's remnants are moving out through Maine and out as we get into Saturday night to Sunday as that dry air really comes through. But overall, those storms rolling northeastward, pushing through Maine, chance of some heavier rain overnight out of here and then drying out here into the weekend as that drier air gets pulled in behind the front. That front is what finally kicked this storm out of the U.S. and heads into Canada and out into the Atlantic. But you really can see that drier air that's coming in from the northwest. This is what is allowing for some of the cooler conditions, more comfortable weather in the center of the country, but still some lingering humidity found along the coast here going into this weekend. So a little bit slower, and that's typical for this time of the year as these fronts don't have a whole lot of momentum as we're not quite there just yet. But let's look at those temperatures here this weekend in the northeast. 73 degrees in Green Bay and the Great Lakes, 75 degrees in Cleveland for the weekend. Still warm in Baltimore. Again, the slow cool down. It's not going to be quite there just yet, but farther north for the center of the country behind the system, we're well below average in Kansas City, Minneapolis, but different story down in the southeast where in Mobile we will be 6 degrees above average Saturday and Sunday with highs in the 90s. But chances of rain throughout this weekend, and we're going to have plenty to talk about in the tropics. I'll have more on that coming up in 10 minutes on Weather on the Ones, on where we are heading in August for the rest of the tropical season.
Meanwhile, the death toll is going up in Ukraine after a Russian strike on a shopping mall Friday. The strike comes just days after Ukraine launched a large-scale attack in the western region of Russia. Moscow called the offensive unprecedented and has declared a federal emergency in the region. A third person has been arrested in connection with the foiled terror. Islamic State group and Al-Qaeda are behind the plot. The main suspect reportedly planned to target fans gathered outside the stadium with knives or explosives. Well, disappointed fans gathered in the streets to trade friendship bracelets and sing Swift songs. Swift's Eras Tour is set to wrap up its European leg with 5 shows in London starting Thursday. A decade after the death of a black teenager by police, his family is still seeking justice. Friday marks 10 years since police in Ferguson, Missouri shot and killed 18-year-old Michael Brown. Brown was not armed. The police officer who killed Brown never faced criminal charges. The killing served as a turning point for police protests, igniting unrest in Ferguson and strengthening the Black Lives Matter movement. Joining me now is Spectrum's Greg Palermo from St. Louis. Greg, how is the St. Louis region marking 10 years since the shooting?
That effort, Michael Brown Sr. founded a foundation in the wake of his son's death. And they've been sponsoring events over the past week. Today, there's a Unity Walk in Ferguson. There's also a community day there, other events through the weekend. I will say yesterday, Leslie McSpadden, Brown's mother, was recognized by the St. Louis Board of Aldermen with a resolution marking the 10 years since that event and what's transpired since. And what was striking is that there were members of the Board of Aldermen who came of age during those protests 10 years ago. And that really is one of the legacies of this event, is that Cori Bush, just this week, she was defeated in her bid for re-election, but she came to power on the strength of being involved in the Ferguson movement. She was defeated by Wesley Bell, who became a Ferguson city councilman in 2015 after those events, and in large part because of the incumbent's decision not to prosecute in the shooting case. Bell, it should be noted, did re-examine the case himself once he was the county prosecutor, and also decided not to press charges.
Greg, since Michael Brown's death, what else has changed in Ferguson?
Well, a lot, and yet not enough, some will say. The leadership in the city. The city is a majority-minority community. Back in 2014, the mayor was white. The police chief was white. Other key city leaders were white. Today, those leaders are African Americans. The makeup of the police force is much different. Back then, it was primarily a white police department. Today, it's primarily a black police department. The police chief today said that 90% of the department has been hired since 2014.
Wow. Lewis, thank you so much for your time. Coming up on Spectrum News, Team USA women powering to the podium. The Olympic team that hasn't lost since 1992.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
Give me one good...
Some of your technology needs.
But not all.
Well, maybe you have too many.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Look, I'm switching to Spectrum Enterprise because they'll be a true partner, and I can't run this network without one.
I think you can. Our clients do it all the time.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
How it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette. Let's talk about the summer heat this weekend. It is going to be a scorcher in the south and in the west. Look at these temperatures for Saturday. High of 107 degrees in Las Vegas, 106 degrees in Phoenix, even into the mid to upper 90s in Utah and Nevada. So on Sunday, not much better. Still expect to be in the triple digits in the desert Southwest, and 90s do continue. So all weekend long with this heat. In the Southeast, similar story, mid 90s, 92 degrees in Tampa, 93 degrees in Jacksonville, 94 degrees in Atlanta. Even hotter as you get into Texas, 99 degrees in Dallas. The only relief this time of the year comes from rain chances, so we will have chances of summer thunderstorms here this weekend. And Saturday, it should be a busy afternoon in Florida, especially Orlando to the south. Heavy thunderstorms with frequent lightning a possibility. Severe chances not high, and we are going to see those storms rolling up all across the southeast coast up into North Carolina as well. A system should be coming through in Arkansas and Oklahoma there into Sunday, so it might be a wetter start to your Sunday then. But as you go to the southeast into New Orleans, mostly dry weekend. just very hot. Mid-90s expected. That will continue to next week. In Kansas and into the plains, feeling pretty good. 79 degrees Saturday afternoon, Sunday a chance, or rather Monday, a chance of those showers and storms into the afternoon as well. Talking about the tropics, we do have another tropical disturbance being monitored, 60% chance of development as it moves to the west. The Lesser Antilles should be watching this very closely, may have a tropical depression there early on in the week. This could become our next system, and it's very likely to become our next system. Most models pretty aggressive with this as it moves into a favorable environment. Puerto Rico should be watching this as well, as we could have that tropical depression and maybe even a tropical storm. Ernesto, the next name on the list, followed by Francine. And as we are looking ahead to things, there are likely chances of development as we go through the next couple of months because favorable weather pattern. We have La Nina developing into September through November and a lot of African monsoonal waves moving across the Atlantic, record warm temperatures. It's likely to be a busy hurricane. Keep up to date with things here, especially in August as we are getting closer and closer to the peak of the hurricane season and heading on into September.
Another amazing day for the women of Team USA at the Paris Olympics. In basketball, U.S. women are headed to the gold medal game. The team easily beat Australia to advance. And listen to this. The team now has 60 straight Olympic game wins. The women have not lost at the Olympics since 1992. The women are seeking an incredible 8th consecutive Olympic gold medal on Sunday. And Team USA women powered over a wet track to take the gold in the 4x100 meter relay. Sha'Carri Richardson anchored the event, clinching victory. The U.S. men were disqualified. We know a little more about the closing ceremony on Sunday and how Paris 2024 will hand over to the next side of the Summer Games, Los Angeles 2028. Variety reports Snoop Dogg, Billie Eilish, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers are expected to be featured in a mix of live and taped performances from Paris and L.A. Now, Variety also reports Tom Cruise will be involved. And taking a look at the Olympic medal tally now, Team USA can't be beaten in the overall count with 111. China is second overall and tied with the U.S. in gold medals. Great Britain has moved up to third overall. From the City of Light to the City of Angels. As the competition in Paris comes to an end, the spotlight turns to Los Angeles for the 2028 Games. The world's best athletes will be ready, but is LA prepared? Spectrum's Ariel Wessler has a preview and looks at
hundreds of events. LA 28 promises a Summer Olympics that will wow visitors from around the world.
It is maybe one of the last things in the world that really does bring the world together.
Unlike previous hosts, LA 2028 will mark the first time that no new permanent spaces will be built for events, instead utilizing existing stadiums and venues.
But the Olympic venues extend beyond just the city of Los Angeles. I'm here in Long Beach at the Marine Stadium, which was the first man-made rowing course in the U.S. It was originally built for the 1932 Games and has since become a popular spot for speedboats and water skiing, and will once again host rowing during the 2028 Games, as well as canoe racing.
And you've got what is the greatest sports city in the world with a university system that's second to none, and the combination of all that allows us to deliver games that's not about construction projects, but it's about embracing the community.
1984 Summer Games, generating enough revenue, including $2.5 billion in corporate sponsorships, to cover all of its costs without turning to taxpayers. The LA Times reports LA 28 is currently about $1 billion short of its goal.
The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum is one of the most iconic venues in the world, and in 2028 it will become the only stadium to have ever hosted the Summer Olympic Games 3 times. And while there's plenty to celebrate, some groups have a host of concerns.
We want to make sure Angelinos understand the real risks.
Eric Sheehan is a passionate member of No Olympics LA, a group strongly against the Olympic Games.
I don't think any city that isn't able to house its residents deserves to host something like the Olympics.
Homelessness is one key concern. When running for her job as mayor, Karen Bass said there wouldn't be any encampments by the time the 2028 Olympics roll around. However, Sheehan says some residents near the Coliseum have already lost their homes. Others have since put up signs like "Eviction equals death" and "Here to stay."
Power players and developers use the Olympics and the state of exception that it ushers in as a way to get projects done that folks would never approve of.
Then there's the infamous LA traffic. While Angelenos will tell you traffic flowed smoother than ever during the games in 1984, there are also 1.5 million more people in LA County now compared to 40 years ago. LA Metro has adopted 28 projects by 2028 to help reduce the congestion.
The Olympics are going to exacerbate so many of our problems. They're going to hurt a lot of our people in the name of a big party.
And we want LA post-2028 to be a better city than it was before 2028.
4 years and counting, with the world watching. Ariel Wessler, Spectrum News.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
Of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot. You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.